I'm just gonna sit here as I'm watching the video. Nah, he's cooked. Yeah, you go way before. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I got it. We're gonna do first Chenji. Yeah, Chenji. That was super entertaining.
Human breed on full display. I stood there quiet, waiting patiently for my praise to arrive. The end.
If you know Chenji, it's extremely entertaining. This is a good channel for Chenji stories. Let's find a good entertaining one. I've been watching many of them. This is a good short video on Chenji stories. Yeah.
Chenji, don't make a sound. There's a killer in the dorm.
And
I
we're
was wide
going to
awake
do
in the middle of the night. I
Mountain
nervously
Dew.
scanned my surroundings, but I didn't see anyone suspicious. Wang Qiang, what kind of joke are you playing in the middle of the night?
We're
Hurry up
going
and
to
go
do
back to sleep.
1.5 too.
Finished speaking, lines of comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. Don't make a sound. The killer is about to realize you're awake. Chenji, can you use your brain? Haven't you realized that the person lying on the bed isn't his roommate? I stared at the comments stunned. I carefully checked the other two bunks. Liu Meng was sleeping on the top and lying in the middle of the night. Hurry up and go back to sleep. But the moment I finished speaking, lines of comments. I was bitten awake in the middle of the night. I nervously scanned my surroundings, but I didn't see anyone suspicious. Wang Qiang, what kind of joke are you playing in the middle of the night? Hurry up and go back to sleep. But the moment I finished speaking, lines of comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. Don't make a sound. The killer is about to realize you're awake. Chenji, can you use your brain? Haven't you realized that the person lying on the bed isn't his roommate? I stared at the comments stunned. I carefully checked the other two bunks. Liu Meng was sleeping on the top and Gao Xiang on the bottom. But now they both had their heads tucked under their blankets, making it impossible for me to see their faces. Just then, a voice came over. What are you doing, not sleeping in the middle of the night? My heart stopped when I heard it because this was clearly not Gao Xiang or Liu Meng's voice. So I feigned.
Heard something.
Calmness and replied, nothing. I suddenly felt like going to the bathroom, so I asked Wang Qiang to come with me. I saw the figure on Gao Xiang's bed shift and pull the blanket up higher, the perfect picture of someone sound asleep. Is the killer in Liu Meng's bed? At this moment, more comments appeared. Strange, how did Chen Jai suddenly get smart? His reaction is pretty quick, knowing to steady the killer first. But in the original script, these guys are all supposed to die. If they don't die, the plot can't move forward. I couldn't care about the comments anymore. I immediately snuck out with Wang Qiang. Just as we got near the dorm door, a voice suddenly came from behind. Where do you think you're going? We looked back and saw a dark shadow standing there holding a weapon. It was too dark and I couldn't see his face. The next second I was struck down. As I was dying, the comment appeared again. Watching this gives me stupidity fatigue. This Chen Jai, stop bashing him, just watch the show. After all, the detective arc coming up is the best part. Reading the comments, I finally understood everything. I was living in a suspense animation. We were the victims, but I refused to accept my fate. I'd lived here for 20 years. Why should I be cannon fodder? I have to survive. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying safely in bed. I had been reborn. Chen Jai, don't make a sound. There's a killer in the dorm. Meanwhile, the comments popped up again. Chen Jai, don't make a sound. If the killer doesn't suspect anything, you might actually survive. I quickly covered my mouth. There were 4 people in the room and one was an imposter. I wanted to survive, but I also wanted to save my roommates. Since I didn't know which one was the killer, I feigned calm and said to Wang Qiang, there's no killer. Are you under too much pressure lately, having nightmares? Wang Qiang caught on immediately and chimed in, yeah, failing the final exams is way too stressful. I need to go get a massage and relax. I nodded, then walked toward Gao Xiang's bed. Gao Xiang, are you asleep? I pulled back his blanket. Yellow hair. Gao Xiang is the one with yellow hair, so the killer must be in Liu Meng's bed. I shook Gao Xiang hard to wake him up, but the comments appeared again. Is Chen Jai an idiot? Why is he waking the killer up? The killer jumped off the bed and killed me without a word. I opened my eyes again. I had been reborn. This time I sent a message to Liu Meng. Liu Meng, don't move. The person in your bottom bunk is the killer. Don't alert him. Find an excuse to escape the dorm. After sending the message, Wang Qiang came over. We actually escaped the dorm. The comments, damn, Chen Jai and Wang Qiang are so smart, but it's useless. The door downstairs is locked by the killer long ago. Why don't they call the police? This animation is low quality. Seeing the comments, I ducked into the storage room and sent a police report. A few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Chen Jai, Wang Qiang, are you in there? It's Liu Meng, open up. Wang Qiang moved to open the door, but I stopped him. What if the killer is making his voice? That's unlikely. What if it really is him? Just then, Liu Meng sent a message. The killer is about to find me. Then a voice came from outside. Hey, finally found you. There was a heavy thud. The killer had arrived. Liu Meng was dead and the door was kicked in. We didn't escape after all. I woke up on my bed again. 1:57 a.m. I had 3 minutes left. This time the rebirth happened even earlier. I immediately ran out of the dorm. I had to save myself. I ran to the second floor and found Liu Meng. Chen Jai, Wang Qiang, he's working with the killer. My brain was a mess. Wang Qiang also sent a message. Chen Jai, be careful. Liu Meng is suspicious. I realized something. Liu Meng was a natural left-hander, but the guy in front of me was gripping me with his right hand with incredible strength. Wang Qiang wasn't lying. The fake Liu Meng pulled me into the storeroom and locked the door. I messaged Wang Qiang and told him my location. He broke in and he and the fake Liu Meng fought until both were exhausted. Chen Jai, I came to save you. This guy is a fake. Kill him.
Go.
You're Liu Meng's brother, right? I asked the fake. Why did you kill my friend? Ever since he met you, he's just been playing games with you and won't play with me. So I had to kill you to take my brother back. I finished him off. Chen Jai, you should believe me now, Wang Qiang urged. I nodded, then bashed Wang Qiang over the head, knocking him out. I admit your acting was good, I said. But there was a hole in your story. You said you saw the fake Liu Meng at 10 p.m. Why wait until midnight to call me? You were using that time to kill Gao Xiang. I leaked the location so you two would take each other out. Wang Qiang closed his eyes forever. Then the after real killer walked in. Wang Qiang was my cousin, a killing machine I raised. I'm impressed. Chen Jai, want to be my right-hand man. Go to hell, I want to be your daddy's. I looked at the comment smugly, not realizing the killer was raising a shovel. In the nick of time, I threw a syringe into the killer's neck. He collapsed and died. I fainted from exhaustion. I woke up at home. Just as I thought it was a dream, the comments returned. The show is updated. This time, the killer is lurking in Chen Jai's own home. I collapsed in despair. Go to hell.
This is
The end of
getting
story.
ridiculous. Before we go to another Chen Jai story, we might actually do a different one. I want to hear what is happening outside. I hear some noise outside. And we're also going to do If I got my dog back here.
It was the 19th of June, 2025.
Hello, everyone. This is Trogard. Trogard is stupidly entertaining. Trust me. It's super great. The main point of Trogard's channel is basically, even though, game economies, like entire games filled with complex math. The funniest part is that most of these games are run by teenagers or children on Minecraft, Habbo, or some other simulation game like Roblox games or whatever. But it's so high technical and complex on some of these fake societies that it actually, I remember one economic thing that basically was like how the Monster Craft or some other Minecraft game suffered for an economic collapse. Of course, most players did not know or slash care of it, but the entire overview of the entire situation, like the complex mathematical stock manipulation and through the house in, it was mixed of 2008 and two in 1929 reasons why the entire economic the entire economy crashed. That was just so funny. Uh, but now let's get to it, okay?
When Uffizi Holdings, a Minecraft-based hedge fund, was dramatically taken off the stock market in a Minecraft server known as Democracycraft. With a market value of 114 million Democracycraft dollars, that's 46,300 US dollars at the rate people were buying and selling the currency for, Uffizi Holdings was the crown jewel of the server's stock market. With a legendary CEO at its helm, and with an impressive track record investing in anything a Minecraft company feasibly could, real estate, mining companies, supermarkets, and derivatives to name a few, Uffizi Holdings quickly became the go-to destination for new players and government officials alike to stash their virtual savings into. By January 2025, Uffizi Holdings had become one of the indisputable titans of Democracycraft's over $100,000 financial industry, a towering symbol of the Minecraft server's 3-year economic boom. But something had gone terribly wrong since then. The company's accounting records, which it had been providing to shareholders and investors, hadn't been calculated properly. A rapid review of the company's finances correctly recorded its own stocks as assets, things it owned, meaning that the company overstated how much it was worth to shareholders and investors. Perhaps these accounting errors could have been written off as being not that big of a deal, were it not for the fact that just a few days prior, Vanguard National Bank, its main rival, had spectacularly collapsed in what could possibly be the largest bankruptcy case in Minecraft history, defaulting on over $39,000 worth of debts it had no way of ever paying back.
Yeah.
The server's investors were in a jittery mood.
Yeah.
If the media caught wind of Uffizi Holdings' so-called accounting discrepancies, there was no doubt in anyone's mind about what would happen next. Mechanic selling of Uffizi Holdings stock, tanking its share price, and very likely tanking the share prices of other companies as well. A complete collapse of Democracycraft stock market, taking over 83,000
Opinion. Freak the hell out, panic sell everything. It's over.
US dollars worth of virtual stocks down with it. Something had to be done. So, in the early hours of June 19, 2025, the executive decision was made. The stock market was booting out Uffizi Holdings. A new player, Stockers, was installed as Uffizi's new CEO, and his job was to stabilize the company's finances and to get its paperwork in order. Once had happened. 1 week later, with all of its accounting discrepancies rectified, the company owned $2,900 worth of assets. $18,700 in debt. Crunching the numbers, it meant that of minus $15,900, utterly insolvent. Being $15,900 in the red for a Minecraft server is probably not the most prudent investment you could make with that amount of money. With $15,900, you could buy 141 discounted copies of The 4 Illustrated Survival Guide by this video's sponsor, Off Protocol.
Oh, yeah, why I'm
Off
James
Protocol is the
Beans,
creative
I'm
team
trying
behind
to-
storytelling products that blur the line
Yeah,
between
like-
art, science, and chaos. And The 4 book is their latest project that takes you through 4 very realistic scenarios for how the world could be turned into an apocalyptic hell. That being a pandemic, global warming, nuclear winter, and of course, zombie outbreak. Having raised over $500,000 US on Kickstarter alone, this gargantuan 400-page hardcover book is filled page to page with stunning, hand-drawn, non-AI generated artwork. But the thing that surprised me the most was just how sturdy the actual book is. Like, just listen to this. That's the sound of not just a book, but a weapon that you could use to bludgeon zombies with by smashing their skulls into tiny, tiny
The
pieces. This
uniqueness
actually isn't
of
mentioned in the book, by the way, so
different
you're
ways
welcome for that
to-
extra tip. In the unlikely event that the world hasn't succumbed to total systems collapse, though, the book still makes for a nice gift, a coffee table collectible that is bound to spark conversations, especially if you display all 141 of them. Check out the link in the description below and use the promo code Trolley4Book for a 20% discount on your copy of The 4 Illustrated Survival Guide.
With Base 44, a simple sentence becomes your website.
It's always
Page
Same.
after page,
talking.
ready for business.
By the time he founded Uffizi Holdings in 2023, Super had already gained a reputation as a veteran within Democracy Graph's financial sector. Starting with just $4 worth of virtual currency, if he is to be believed anyway, Super quickly grew his company out of basically nothing. Hamilton City Bank, as it would later be known, would hit a peak valuation of $600 by December 2021, making so much money that it was reportedly paying out over $40 of interest payments to its customers every single month. The main way that
Huh?
Hamilton City Bank made its money was by buying and selling shares on the server stock market, which had been going up and up for close to a year. Players across the server invested their savings into some of the Minecraft server's fastest growing companies. You had supermarket chains like Walmart and Walgreens, which sold everything from sea lanterns to elytras. You had wholesalers like Costco, which hired, independently contracted, legions of underpaid kids to mine diamonds and log trees to sell in bulk. You had massive conglomerates like Onyx Industries, which, according to its
For
CEO,
a
was the first
democracy
major company to use villagers at an efficient rate, making most of its money by selling enchanted books to consumers. Hamilton City Bank was all in on the stock market, pouring over $140 worth of virtual currency into business stocks. When a short seller in January 2022 approached Super with a bet that the entire stock market was going to crash within the next 3 months, Super immediately took him up on the offer. You want to bet against the entire stock market, which has done nothing but go up in the past year? I mean, sure, if you're going to give us free money, we're going to take it. The deal they struck was this. The short seller would pay $4 to the bank every week until March 2022. If the stock market dropped below 2.6% of its original value in January, the bank would pay out a penalty. The larger the drop, the bigger the penalty. The stock market didn't drop by 2.6%, 3%, or even 3.4% though. It dropped by 11.5%, following media reports of troubles, and maybe even fraud, related to the running of the stock market.
Basically, a complex financial scheming mix of 2008 and 1929 completely bottom out the base of the stock market's valuations and went housing values. Again, really watch this video because it's like an hour long and I don't have the memory and time to talk about the entire complicated process of like over years of democracy craft or this Minecraft service growth that essentially collapsed its stock market. It went
That 11.5% drop meant that the Minecraft bank, worth roughly $600, was left with an estimated bill of $923.26. Not all hope was lost, though. After begrudgingly settling the case out of court, which saw the bank agree to pay $366 in 6 monthly installments, the bank struck a different deal with the Redmont People's Trust, RPT, a different bank. They would merge, forming a new bank called the Tello Corporation. Now, obviously, there were some concerns on the RPT end about whether it was a good idea to inherit $366 of debt, but the co-CEOs of Hamilton City Bank were relentlessly optimistic. $366 of debt was like, what, $61 a month? All the newly formed bank needed to do was make more than $61 a month, and everything would be fine. They'd pay back their debt, they'd make even more money than if they stayed as separate banks, and they'd go home stinking rich. This was clearly a great deal for both banks, not just for Hamilton. So, as Super slowly drifted into the background, and as Tello burst into flames trying to pay back the $366 debt that was wrecking its finances, Super began to reflect on the lessons he learned from his previous ventures. Firstly, risking it all on one big trade was a terrible investment strategy. Hamilton Citibank had already made a massive bet on the stock market going up. Doubling down and betting even more money was ultimately what killed it. For a financial institution to succeed, it can't have a single point of failure. It needed to have diversification. It needed to have multiple ways of making money. Secondly, M&A, mergers and acquisitions, was seemingly a great way to grow a business. He started off with a
You know, you're basically at this point basically just doing a job.
small company,
Unemployed.
IBC, which merged with another to create Icarus Bank, which merged with another to create Hamilton, which merged with another to create Tello. Every step of the way, the value of his company got bigger. First, it was $4, then it was $81, then it was $600,
By
and finally, it was
basically mergers.
$1,300. And sure, Tello ended up collapsing, but that was arguably more to do with poor execution than poor strategy. Perhaps he had it all figured out. When Super burst back into the spotlight in July 2020, perhaps
Pursuit to Action Section 5 is quick of Debt Recovery and Quick Fix Act. This notice serves as Telus Corporation, basically blah blah blah, intends of bankruptcy. All real estate is sold. All assets are sold. All investments are sold. All due loans shall be collected by the court of law, and all loans with time for repayment are permissible shall sold to a third party. Under Financial Services Act, the Teller Corporation, Department of Commerce,
he had it all figured out.
For
When
bankruptcy,
Super burst back into the spotlight in July 2023, he offered prospecting investors a bold new proposition, a chance to invest in his brand new hedge fund, Uffizi Holdings. At the core of his company's philosophy was diversification. He wasn't going to put all of his eggs in one basket. Putting his own money on the line, Uffizi Holdings had already acquired several smaller businesses, known as subsidiaries. Omni-General, for instance, was your typical supermarket chain where players bought groceries, pre-built eggs, and firearms. Axel Construction was who you called if you needed house builders, interior designers, or demolition experts. Uffizi Finance was just your ordinary bank, offering stuff like mortgages for players wanting to buy their new Minecraft home. On the 10th of July 2023, Uffizi Holdings was listed on the stock exchange, allowing ordinary players to buy Uffizi stock for the very first time. But why would Super return to the stock market, considering what had happened there last time?
you lost all your money and got $900 million of
Expanding a
debt.
business costs money. Land costs money, building materials cost money, and employees cost money. Buying out entire businesses like Uffizi Holdings certainly costs money. So how do businesses get money? Well, the most straightforward way is to make a profit. If the amount of money a supermarket makes is more than the money it's spending to run itself, it's making a profit. The supermarket could gradually save up those profits it's making so that it can set up new locations in the future. But this process can be really, really slow, particularly if the profit being made isn't actually that much. So how do we speed up the process? How do we get the money to expand now? If the CEO is a smooth talker, maybe they could convince a bank to give them a small loan of $1 million. If they're sufficiently well connected, maybe they could get a friendly congresswoman to slip in a couple $100,000 in their next budget bill. But another way of doing things would be for them to sell shares of their company on the stock market. By selling, let's say, 40% of their company, they could get a lot of money really quickly from the shareholders who had just bought those shares. They'd be giving up 40% of their company away, but in return, they'd receive a massive cash injection, which would be enough to quickly expand the company. Their slice of the pie may be smaller, but the total size of the pie, at least in theory, got bigger. But how would an investor know how much they should be buying those shares for? This is where disclosure rules come in. Stock markets, both in Minecraft and real life, have rules requiring companies listed on them to regularly give information about how their companies are doing financially. Income statements, for example, tell us how much profit or loss a company has made over a period of time, let's say a month. Balance sheets, on the other hand, tell us how much stuff a company owns, how much debt a company owes, and how much shareholders would have left if the company were to be theoretically dissolved.
Yeah, so basically disclosing financial assets to the public.
With his company's finances in hand, Super made his pitch. Uffizi Holdings was already a successful company. With his own money, he built up a hedge fund with profitable subsidiaries across the board. His supermarket made money, his bank made money, his construction company made money. But Uffizi Holdings was capable of so much more. Super only had so much money to pour into his hedge fund. If ordinary players chipped in their pocket money and bought some Uffizi stock, he'd be able to raise enough money to aggressively expand his company. He'd be able to buy out real estate companies, insurance companies, and luxury brands, just to name a few. His pitch worked
The
wonders, and
Minecraft.
Uffizi's stock price began to rise. On the day Uffizi
All
Holdings
these
made its debut,
Minecraft
investors valued the company at around $111. In less than 2 months, the
Mm.
company had grown by a whopping 250%, reaching a valuation of $390. After doing a bit of corporate rejigging, which technically involved selling off the company and starting a new spiritual successor called RWE Capital, the name is going to change a lot, so I'll continue calling it
Created after the sale.
Uffizi Holdings, Super went on a shopping spree called RWE Capital. The name is going to change a lot, so I'll continue calling it Uffizi Holdings. Super went on a shopping spree. RWE Capital, the name is going to change a lot.
The name change going to be merger with S Capital, merger with S Capital, merger with SCC.
So I'll continue calling it Uffizi Holdings. Super went on a shopping spree, buying practically everything his hands could touch. He bought lots of real estate, packaging them as real estate investment trusts. He bought lots of debt from other banks, selling them as multi-level reduced-risk credit-backed security groupings, or Malurkabiskas for short. He, of course, bought stocks in a lot of other companies as well. And some of the things Super bought were admittedly duds. In May 2024, his company bought a 50% stake in a bank called Artrides. That bank collapsed just 1 month later. According to court filings, its CEO, the only person with access to the bank's vaults, suddenly stopped playing on the server. This meant that the bank's customers couldn't withdraw their money, leading to its collapse. But honestly, this was to be expected.
They actually give up on playing on the Minecraft server, collapsing everyone's money. He basically lost a dozen people dozens of dollars. And $60 worth of stock.
When you're investing in so many different companies, sectors, and industries, you're bound to have a few that don't pan out. The whole point of the Uffizi strategy, diversification, was for the company not to be reliant on any one investment. Even if some made losses, the others could make up for it. His shareholders were similarly unfazed by these setbacks, who rewarded the company by buying even more of its stock at higher prices. In April 2024, the stock market valued Uffizi Holdings at $451. Just 3 months later, that same market valued the company at over $4,000.
I think you should calm down. You're now getting into thousands territory. You don't want to
Super's
lose
strategy
thousands
seemed to be
dollars
working
worth of
perfectly.
stock.
Uffizi Holdings was growing at a rapid rate. But Super wasn't done yet, because there were more things left to buy. He, at this point, had set his sights on buying a very different type of company, his competitors. The rapid rise of Uffizi Holdings had demonstrated to Democracy Craft's business leaders that its player base craved investments. Players, chock full of virtual cash, wanted a place where they could safely stash their savings. What helped a lot was that the political establishment was on their side. Politicians, ever keen to present themselves as pro-business and pro-growth, greenlit massive tax breaks for banks, hedge funds, and other financial institutions. The only thing better than a hedge fund was one that was tax-free. It didn't
So basically, political establishments collapsed the tax rules over many hedge funds and corporate holdings.
take long for Uffizi Holdings to attract new competitors, including S Capital and the Sigma Strategies Corporation. Nor did it take long for other companies to pivot their strategies to copy what they thought was driving Uffizi Holdings' success: buying everything. Democracy Craft was soon gripped, by extension, the safest company to invest in. And so everyone began. Virtus Group, for instance, a self-described media and entertainment company, began showing off to investors it owned. It claimed to own an events organizing company, 2 betting companies, a business ratings agency, a financial media outlet, the UFC, not the real one, a film production studio, a luxury holiday resort, an entire theme park called Virtusland, a football league, an art gallery and studio, an alcoholic beverage company, and even a space company?
Yes.
Acquiring Uffizi's rivals seemed like the natural next step. With diverse investment portfolios of their own, buying them out wouldn't risk putting Uffizi's eggs in one basket. Rather, it would simply add more eggs to it. After a bit of negotiation, S Capital and Uffizi Holdings agreed to tie the knot, and when 2 became 1, Uffizi's share price jumped even higher, reaching over 20 million Democracy Craft dollars, or $8,440. The market had proven it wanted bigger and bigger companies, and Super's appetite grew even larger. When Super approached the Sigma Strategies CEO with an offer to merge the two, however, he was immediately rebuffed. No way, Admin23 responded. The SSC was not for sale.
Tell Monday what you need. We're creating an agent and naming him Tony. Now let's give him context. I'm giving Tony access.
Under his leadership, the SSC had become a giant in its own right. It had its own line of subsidiaries. It had its own trading strategy. It had its own war chest filled with cash and netherite ingots. The SSC was operating fine on its own. It didn't need to join Uffizi Holdings' umbrella. But this was where we saw the ruthless determination that Super had to acquire his rivals. Because if the Sigma Strategy CEO wasn't willing to budge, fine, he was going to go around him. Super was going to mount a hostile takeover.
Yeah, I
A
knew
hostile
you
takeover
had
is when one company takes over another company without the other management's permission. This is possible because the final say over what a company does generally rests with the shareholders and not the company's CEO. Thus, if a company's CEO
legally shareholders rule all. Companies are, ever since that decision of the Supreme Court, the actual Supreme Court, companies are shareholder-run operations.
objects to a takeover, but a majority of shareholders agree to one, the takeover still happens because the shareholders overrule the CEO. Admin23 set up his company so that there were actually two types of shares, Class A and Class B. Class A shares, of which there were 100 in total, gave a person 1 vote per share. Class B shares, of which there were 10,000 in total, gave a person 1/200th of a vote per share. Altogether, that meant there were 150 votes on the table, with 76 giving you a majority. Admin23, quite wisely, you could say, kept most of the Class A shares, giving him sizable voting power. Most of the SSE shares sold on the stock market were the Class B type, the cheaper and far less powerful type. But somewhere along the line, Admin23 sold a third of the company's Class A shares. Those shares were acquired by a different company called The Exchange, the company that ran the stock market. That meant that Admin23 no longer had majority control of the company. If all of the shareholders theoretically joined forces, they could outvote the CEO. Super, through his company Uffizi Holdings and its subsidiary S Capital, began gradually buying more and more Class B shares. By late September 2024, Super had acquired over 7,000 Class B shares, giving him 35 votes. By joining forces with Stoppers, who was the CEO of the exchange, they possessed 81 out of 150 votes. They had majority control. The takeover of the
So you just had to ally by the state.
SSE was as swift as it was brutal. Despite admin's protests that the vote was illegal, on the 20th of September 2024, the shareholders of the SSE voted to sack Admin23 and install Super as its new CEO. With the chief more amenable to a merger with Uffizi Holdings, the two tied the knot on the 11th of December 2024. Uffizi Holdings was now the indisputable king of Democracy Craft's hedge funds. With no investment firms considered its equal, the hype surrounding its share price went full steam ahead. In February 2025, its market value was at 40 million Democracy Craft dollars, nearly 16,400 US. In March, it jumped to
$16,000. This is unstable, unsustainable for a Minecraft situation.
61 million dollars, 24,800 US. In April, it sat at $85.5 million, 34,800 US. And by June 2025, it was at 114 million.
I can already see this coming. It's a stock bonanza. 1929, the worst crash is going to come.
$46.
Their government should never relax tax policies.
1,000 US. Large parts of the server are riding on the Uffizi hype train. The F10K index, for example, a fund that was set up to allow players and businesses to invest in a diverse group of companies, suddenly found itself being composed of 55% Uffizi stock by February 2025. 1 month later, when Virtus Group declared bankruptcy, the F10K's composition became 86% Uffizi holding stock. Even the government was getting involved. The Federal Reserve Bank, tasked with keeping the server's inflation under control, began pouring millions of Democracy Craft dollars into buying Uffizi holding stock. By the end of January 2025, 90% of the stocks it owned were in Uffizi, representing 24 million Democracy Craft dollars, or 9,750 US dollars. Questions at this point had begun to swirl. How could a Minecraft company be worth so much? As investors began to question Uffizi Holdings' ever-growing share price, Super sought to disabuse them of their concerns. The company's accounting records showed that it was making gigantic profits. Between January and April 2025, the company's balance sheets suggested it made over 34.8 million Democracy Craft dollars, or 14,200 US dollars.
$14,000 in Q1 for a Minecraft game? I could expect 4,000, maybe even 8,000, but 14,000. I can already smell the fishiness.
The claim was remarkable. Just 2 years ago, the company was boasting about how its supermarket chain, OmniGeneral, was raking in the equivalent of $1 a day. Now, it was casually claiming it had made over 4,700 US dollars a month in profit. And it wasn't clear where these profits were coming from. In the past, Uffizi Holdings made a lot of its money from the profits generated by its subsidiaries, but those subsidiaries no longer existed. OmniGeneral no longer existed. Red Rocket no longer existed. Uffizi Finance,
Oh.
Apollo Bank, Megacorp, Axel Construction, Rolex, Heritage Property Group, Airbnb, Union Bank, Titan Risk Management. None of those
Everything?
subsidiaries existed anymore. Many of them, after all, were previously one-man companies run by their owners. The owners did the heavy lifting. They opened up stores, they stacked up shelves, they negotiated with suppliers. When Uffizi Holdings bought out these companies, giving their owners a hefty sum of cash and some Uffizi stock, what did they do? They moved on, taking their labor and expertise with them. After Uffizi Holdings finalized its takeover of the SSC, for instance, something curious happened. All of the SSC subsidiaries simultaneously collapsed. Why should Admin23 continue to run Airbnb, Union Bank, and Titan Risk Management if all of their profits were going to Uffizi Holdings anyway?
You didn't replace any of these companies?
Why should he continue to run the SSC's trading division, which he previously made huge profits for, to benefit the very people who ousted him as CEO? If Uffizi Holdings was this determined to take over his company, fine then. Have fun running those subsidiaries without the only guy who has previously run them. So, if it wasn't Uffizi's subsidiaries that were making it this much money, what was? By June 2025, we had our answer. It was due to a quote-unquote accounting discrepancy.
Politics and war is all about learning, networking,
Accounting?
planning, and creating stories that will affect thousands of people for years to come. Politics and war is
As mentioned before, a balance sheet provides crucial information about a company's finances. Specifically, it tells us what a company owns, its assets, what a company owes, its liabilities, and what shareholders would have left if the company closed its doors, its shareholder equity. So, suppose I had a balance sheet for my very legitimate TNT company. This is what it could look like. First, we have the assets, things we own, so stuff like cash, items, real estate, and stocks of other companies. Then we have the liabilities, things we owe, so stuff like loans taken out from private banks. Finally, we have the shareholder equity, what's left, which, if calculated correctly, should be equal to the assets minus the liabilities. What if my company bought back some of its own shares? Perhaps I thought my company's share price was too low, and by doing a stock buyback, I'd be able to push the price up by reducing supply. How would I record that on the balance sheet?
Reagan ideology.
Perhaps the intuition would be to record it as an asset. After all, if the shares of other companies count as assets, why would the shares of my own company, also known as treasury stock, not be? The answer, however, is that it isn't an asset. As the former finance minister Sink pointed out, treasury stock should be recorded as a subtraction of shareholder equity, or to use the fancy term, a contra equity account. To understand what on earth that even means, and to get a basic feel for why this is the case, let's use a simpler example. Suppose I created a new company and issued 100 shares for $1 each, meaning one share gave you 1% of the company. A balance sheet for the company would look something like this. Assets, we have $100 in cash, so $100 in total. Liabilities, we took on no debt, so $0 in total. Shareholder equity is generally split into two sections. Paid-in capital simply means the initial amount of money we raised when selling our shares, so $100. And retained earnings is how much profit the company has earned since then, 0, since the company hasn't done anything yet. Checking our work, assets minus liabilities equals shareholder equity. $100 minus $0 equals $100. The maths checks out. Now, suppose the company buys back 99 of its shares for $1 each, with the final share being held by me. If we incorrectly record these shares as assets, our balance sheet would look something like this. Assets, we have $1 in cash and $99 in stocks, $100. Liabilities, no debt, $0. Shareholder equity, paid in capital is the same, retained earnings are the same. $100 minus $0 is $100. The maths also seems to check out.
Oh, so basically, if you're using your own money and you have less assets in cash, taking away that injection, and thus the buyback stock doesn't.
Well,
pay.
the company is still worth $100. So let's dissolve the company. I own one share, so I should get 1% of what's left, and the company owns 99% of itself, so it gets 99%. But the company obviously won't exist anymore since it's been dissolved, so if we only count shares held by valid people, I own 1 out of 1 share. In other words, I should get 100% of what's left. That's great. So let's work out the payout. I get $1 in cash and 99 shares of a company that no longer exists. On paper, they were worth $99, but in practice, they're completely worthless. If we total up what I actually got, I only got $1. The accounting completely breaks apart. Had we accurately recorded the treasury stocks as a subtraction of equity instead, we would have seen what was happening in reality. Assets, we had $1 in cash, treasury stocks don't count. Liabilities, 0 debt, $0. Shareholder equity, paid in capital is the same, retained earnings are the same. Crucially, however, we add one more section, treasury stock, minus $99. $1 minus $0
For
is
equity,
$1.
For the what's left for the shareholders if a company collapses.
The company is thus worth $1. Notice how the accounting breaks apart though. While my company only had $1 in assets, it was misreporting it had $100. To put it another way, misrecording a company's treasury stocks overinflates the company's assets on paper. This overinflation makes the company look like it's worth a lot more than it actually is. And this problem can quickly snowball out of control because share prices can increase. Suppose I convinced a player to buy my singular share in this company for $2. What happens now? Well, if we go back to the balance sheet, the company stocks aren't worth 99 times $1 anymore. They're worth 99 times $2 or $198. With that one share price increase, my $1 company is now worth $199 on paper. Now, suppose this player sells their share for $3.
And also, if you're watching this like me, I'm mostly silent for most of this time because I'm trying to understand the complex markets, the share economics. And so the counter equity solution of having buy stocks equals the assets.
What now?
No,
99 times $3 equals $297. Plus 1 gives me $298. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. Every time the company's share price increases, the company's book value increases. Every time the book value increases, the share price increases, because investors are willing to pay higher prices for what they perceive to be a rapidly growing company. But in reality, nothing has changed. The company is still worth $1.
I haven't been to the grocery store in months because this delivery service offers hundreds of high-quality, non-GMO groceries and recipes.
The accounting error was subtle at first. The occasional stock buyback here and there meant most of Ephesy's reported assets were still in other things. But every time it did another round of stock buybacks, every time it acquired another competitor that owned Ephesy stock, the company acquired more and more of itself. By June 2020,
until a majority of its profits are actually just coming from the increasing stocks assets.
The error had become too big to ignore. Something was clearly wrong with the company's accounts. When the error was identified and its accounts were revised, the extent of the damage was revealed. Uffizi Holdings' assets were...
So, actual reported assets and debts. So yeah, here's the little thing. By the actual calculations, you're fucked. There's 76 million in positive values for shareholders. There's actually negative 22 million for shareholders.
Overvalued by an estimated 73 million Democracy Craft dollars, or $29,700 US. $30,000 had never existed in the first place. When stockers wrestled for the loans were predicated on the assumption that it owned in reality. The only thing that was still earning subsidiary, Vault Bank, the second largest bank on the server. But the crippling levels of debt Uffizi held threatened to sink it to the ground, potentially collapsing another bank at a time when the server faced its Lehman moment. The painful decision was made. Vault Bank. If the parent company couldn't survive, the only hope was for their beloved child to live on. On the 30th of June 2025, Uffizi Holdings submitted its final balance sheet. The company owned $2,900 worth of assets. The company owed $18,700 in debt. Crunching the numbers, it meant that the company was worth a grand total of minus $15,900. Uffizi Holdings was utterly insolvent.
Now you're in debt and fucked. And you're fucked. Fucked. The final situation, you're in debt and you're fucked. So in terms of money, they're just cooked. Let's do this.
After the final exam ended, my roommates left one by one. I was the only one left in dorm 614. At 3 a.m., I suddenly heard someone twisting the door handle. Who would be visiting at this hour? I picked up my phone, ready to go to the door, when I suddenly saw over 80 unread messages on my screen. Is anyone else still in building 7? Are you hearing those strange sounds? Damn, you heard it too. I'm terrified. There's something unclean outside. After reading the messages, I sat up on my bed, staring fixedly at the dormitory door. That damnable asterisk he asterisk sound was continuous.
Yeah, it's a monster.
Surely it couldn't be a rat. Just then, my phone rang again. Everyone still in the dorms, lock your doors and windows. Do not make a sound, do not move. It seems a mountain demon has entered our building. Upon hearing this, I felt as if I'd been struck by lightning. Every hair on my body stood up. Mountain demons usually live deep in the mountains and look terrifying. They especially love to eat children and women. I had always thought they were just
children and women. You're
legends. I never expected to actually run into one. For real.
I was like, you're Chenji. You're Chenji.
Don't scare me. It's real. I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and heard footsteps in the hallway. Through the peephole, I saw a dark shadow on the 6th floor corridor. Seeing this, I grew even more terrified because I was on the 6th floor in dorm 614. That meant the monster had just been clawing at my door. This is crazy. What do we do now? I can't even sleep. I've already called the police, but they said the heavy snow has blocked the roads, and it will take them an hour to get here. Everyone hide in your rooms and don't make a sound. I turned off my phone and trembled as I walked toward the door, carefully leaning against the peephole, terrified of making eye contact with the mountain demon. The hallway lights were flickering, but I could see a long trail of dirty, black, barefoot prints on the white tile. I felt suffocated. Our dorm window didn't have security bars. I leaned against the door and typed into my phone. Why would a mountain demon come to our dorms? Soon, someone replied. The heavy snow has blocked the mountains. The demon has no food and had to come down to hunt. I heard from the elders that this. Just then, there was a knock at the door of 613. I looked through the peephole. A figure in black standing at the entrance of 613. The black footprints led straight to their door. Its soles were covered in black fur. The knocking was steady, but since it was the middle of the night, it sounded incredibly loud. I suddenly remembered someone was still in that dorm, my classmate Wang Qiang. I quickly sent a message to the group. Wang Qiang, are you awake? The mountain demon is knocking at your door. Do not open it. I heard it. Ooh, this is such bad luck. Wang Qiang didn't reply to the group. Just as I didn't know what to do, a voice came from next door. Who is it? It was Wang Qiang's voice. My mind went blank. I quickly took a photo of the mountain demon at 613's door and sent it to the group. Don't open the door, Wang Qiang's. Look at the group. Holy SH asterisk T, that thing, I see it. The door to 613 opened, and the mountain demon instantly devoured Wang Qiang. I covered my mouth in terror and typed into the group, Wang Qiang has been attacked. I think I heard someone screaming for help. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't type properly. It's the person from 613. He's been eaten. Don't cause panic. As long as we don't open our doors, the demon can't get in. Guys, it's real. He then sent a photo taken from the 607 window. The mountain demon was clutching Wang Qiang's photo. I checked the time, only 10 minutes had passed. Suddenly, the chewing sound stopped. I looked through the peephole, but it was pitch black. I thought the peephole was broken, but the next second a scarlet eye appeared in the view, followed by its hairy demonic face. I fell backward, startled, and made a sound. Damn it, the demon had been covering the peephole with its hand. It was looking inside. It knew I was in here, and it urinated at my door. The smell was pungent and fishy. It was marking my room. I knew I couldn't just sit and wait. I would be eaten before the police arrived. I didn't dare turn on the lights, so by the faint glow of my phone, I grabbed a baseball bat from the table. With the bat, I felt a bit more confident. Dorm manager, the mountain demon found me. It's right at my door. What do? I tried to ask others for help, but they were just as lost. Lock the doors and windows. Wait quietly for the police. Damn it, I knew this guy Zhou Gang was useless. I gripped the bat and crept toward the door, only to find it was gone. I spun around, scanning the room with my phone light, but found nothing. I checked my phone. 15 minutes had passed. Can the police get here any faster? Then another message came in. Something is climbing on the exterior wall. I heard the noise. The demon peed at my door. It's probably trying to climb in from the outside. I grabbed a clothes hanger and hid near the window, holding my breath, carefully listening to the movement outside. Then a rough, ragged breathing sound came from the exterior wall, growing louder, accompanied by the sound of fingernails scraping against the concrete. A hand landed on my windowsill. I stared at the window. The demon's other hand landed too. Finally, it climbed onto the window. It lowered its head, its scarlet pupils peering inside. Only then did I see the full appearance of the mountain demon. Suddenly, it seemed to lock onto something. It smashed through the window. The biting, freezing wind from the snowstorm outside messed with its sense of smell. It kept sniffing around, its mouth still stained with the blood of Wang Qiang. I pressed my body against the wall by the window, feeling the overwhelming stench of musk and rot. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. I slowly aimed the clothes hanger at the demon. Sure enough, after a moment, it didn't smell anything and prepared to turn away. But then my phone rang. A notification popped up. I had set the volume to the minimum, but it was still deafening in the silent dorm. I had forgot to turn the phone off. The demon roared upon hearing it and lunged at me. I dodged its massive hand and thrust the hanger into its chest. The demon didn't have time to dodge and was stabbed hard, but it didn't cause much damage. It only enraged the beast further. It swung its long arms and swiped me across the room. I slammed into the bed frame. Just as it opened its arms to grab and dismember me, the bed railing hit its hand, slowing it down by a fraction of a second. Seizing the opportunity, I ran to the door, unlocked it, and sprinted to the end of the hallway. The demon roared and chased after me. I ran like a madman. At the end of the hall were the elevator and the stairs. I couldn't stop in time and crashed into the elevator door. Ignoring the pain, I frantically smashed the buttons. Perhaps it was heaven's mercy. The elevator stopped on the 6th floor just in time. I turned to look at the approaching demon. The beast leaped at me when it was still 5 meters away. Since death was inevitable either way, I gritted my teeth and pulled out a fruit knife, aiming it at the beast. Thankfully, the elevator doors closed just in time. The beast slammed into the metal door. I steadied myself and frantically sent a message to the group. I'm being chased by the mountain demon. Be careful, it can break through windows. As I finished, I suddenly remembered something and pressed the button for the 3rd floor. The beast was smart. It would definitely wait for me at the 1st floor. So I would go to the 3rd floor and find another way to hide. As soon as I exited the elevator, I ran to the other end of the hall. Just as I predicted, the demon roared at the 1st floor and then raced toward the 3rd. It was fast. Just as I was about to reach the end of the hall, the demon's sounds grew closer. I was so terrified that I tripped and fell. Just as I was about to scramble back up, my back was suddenly gripped by a massive, powerful force. It had caught me. That stinging, pungent stench filled my nose. I struggled desperately, but I was firmly held. I felt excruciating pain in my shoulder. It actually lifted me up and turned me toward its face. I kicked my legs, coming face to face with it. I thought it wanted to toy with me, but suddenly it opened its blood-stained jaws and lunged for my neck. I pulled out my fruit knife and stabbed at its eye all my might, but the strike went wide. It roared in pain. Fortunately, the pain caused it to loosen its grip, and I managed to escape. It clawed at its face in agony, trying to pull the knife out. Taking the opportunity, I sprinted to the 1st floor. Just as I was about to run out, I realized running into the open was suicide. I couldn't outrun the beast. I returned to the 3rd floor, pushed open a door, and thankfully 302 was unlocked. I slipped inside and locked the door. I grabbed some tissues to wipe the blood from my forehead. The feeling of surviving death made me collapse to the floor. Subconsciously, I pulled out my phone to check the group, but the screen wouldn't turn on. My link to the outside world was severed. I had to rely on myself. I listened intently to the movements outside. I estimated the police were still half an hour away. Only when I was certain the demon hadn't found me did I dare to stand up. The pain in my feet made me double over. I looked down and saw my shoes had been shredded by broken glass and blood was seeping out. I hadn't noticed because I had been running so fast. That meant I had left a trail of bloody footprints everywhere I ran. Now with no phone and no weapon, that beast could easily track me by the blood. Rather than sitting and waiting for death, I had to gamble for a chance to live. I stood up and found a baseball bat in the dorm. Suddenly, a strange sound erupted outside, getting closer and clearer. I pressed my ear to the door. It was a human voice. Open the door quickly, it's Captain Away. My heart sank. It was the mountain demon. The beast could actually speak. I didn't have time to be shocked. I hurriedly grabbed a bottle of floral water from the table and poured it all over myself to mask my scent. I looked through the peephole. Sure enough, it had stopped at the door of 302. The blood trail ended at 302. I was relieved that I had taken a long step from 301 and jumped straight into 302. The beast stood at the door of 302, repeating that sentence over and over. My scalp went numb. Suddenly, a door opened. I thought the beast had opened my door. I was so scared I nearly made a sound. I suddenly remembered, opposite us, 301 was the dorm manager Joe Gang's room. Joe Gang's door had actually opened. He only had a pair of scissors to defend himself. Was he an idiot? Why would he open the door? My eyes widened. I heard the mountain demon emit a sage-like shout, then grab Joe Gang, who had already collapsed in terror. Joe Gang's screams echoed in the hallway, tearing at my heart. I didn't dare to watch the bloody horror outside. Separated by only one door, I could clearly hear the sound of the demon chewing. It wasn't that I didn't want to save him. If I went out, it would only give the beast a fuller meal. I could only lean against the door and console myself. Soon, Joe Gang stopped moving and the chewing sounds faded. I sat there, leaning against the door without moving. Fatigue washed over me and my eyelids began to fight, but I forced myself to stay awake. I don't know how long it lasted, but the outside was deathly silent. I peeked through the peephole. The demon was gone. After confirming it wasn't at the door, I found a spare phone on the dorm bed that could turn on. It must have been a backup phone for the roommates. Opening WeChat, I saw 9 messages. Damn, I think I heard screams downstairs. What happened, manager? He's already dead. Everyone hide. Be especially careful of windows. If you hear someone shouting to open the door, don't. That beast can talk. The group exploded, expressing their disbelief. For real, it became a spirit. Manager, are you still there? Give us a sign.
No.
Stop tagging the manager. He's already bubbling inside its stomach. I didn't pay much attention. Just as I was secretly celebrating that I might survive, a familiar, pungent stench wafted in from the window. My mind went blank. It was the smell of the mountain demon. The beast had come back. But this time I had experience dealing with. I kept my eyes on the window while silently crawling onto the bed. The stench grew strong. I gripped the baseball bat with both hands, aimed at the window, ready to strike. However, about half a minute passed and nothing came through the window. Damn it, I can't be wrong about the smell. Why is there no movement? I was terrified, and the bat in my hand trembled uncontrollably. The stench remained thick. It was definitely nearby. I don't know where I got the courage, but I climbed down and crept toward the window. The bathroom door was half open, and the wind was blowing in from the vent. Strange, I remembered closing the bathroom door. Just as I was confused, a pair of scarlet eyes suddenly appeared in the darkness. I was startled. The beast didn't hesitate and lunged at me. Fortunately, I reacted quickly and shoved the bat toward it. It had to loosen its grip on me. Seizing the opportunity, I sprinted to the door, locked the beast inside room 302, and ran for my life. The demon, having broken out and unable to find me, began smashing in every door one by one. The massive sound was a huge psychological pressure. I couldn't imagine how desperate the others hiding behind those doors must be, though they shouldn't be as hopeless as me. My lower leg had lost too much blood and was growing numb and cold. Was I really going to die here today? Suddenly, I woke up with a start. My strong survival instinct told me not to sleep. Sure enough, the beast had finally followed the blood trail to me. I slowly lifted my head and locked eyes with its scarlet pupils. You're still a bit smart. Before I could even finish a sentence, it dragged me out with one hand. Looking at me covered in wounds, the mountain demon seemed to feel quite accomplished. It didn't rush to eat me but held me by the throat, sniffing my scent. I didn't show any fear. Instead, I looked at the beast with a cold, blood-chilling stare. It was stunned. It didn't know why I was suddenly so bold. After a moment, it lost patience and lifted me up. It opened its huge, blood-stained jaws and bit toward me. At the critical moment, several gunshots rang out. Both the beast and I fell to the ground. Everything went black, and I lost
Though he was able to be eliminated by guns, America would be a horrible place for a demon.
consciousness. I woke up 2 days later. The hospital smelled strongly of disinfectant. I opened my eyes and looked around. Mom was the first to notice I was awake. She was moved to
Apartment building full of
tears. Honey, Chenjai is finally awake. Go call the doctor. My mom hurried my dad to find the doctor. Before long, the attending physician walked in, checked my condition, and told my parents, his condition is stable. You can...
Okay, I just gotta say one thing. I'll tell you some bits. A good amount of these stories usually have a twist at the end. And usually always be suspicious of this face. It might be happy, smiling, but it also could be devious. And it's a coin flip on if it's devious or just being. And he has a very physical build. Looks like the mountain demon. I don't know if that could be the twist.
Rest easy. My parents looked at me heartbroken and speechless. Not long after, the police who got the news arrived at the hospital. They asked me about what happened at the time. I slowly sat up in the hospital bed and asked the police, where is the corpse of the mountain demon? We already had the Nature Conservation Bureau take the body away, and we've notified the Daxing-Anling Nature Reserve staff to tighten control over wild animals. The mountain demon eating people is a very serious matter. I suppose they would try to handle it publicly to avoid panic. The mountain demon wasn't just any wild animal. They have become spirits. You must ensure it is truly dead. The police thought I was overly traumatized. They comforted me and left, but I always demon wasn't truly dead. When it fell after being shot, it's both angry and satisfied. Sure enough, that afternoon, I saw transporting the mountain demon's body had crashed on the side of the road. One person was injured. The police couldn't find the body at the scene. The result was clear. It had feigned death to fool everyone, then seized the opportunity to attack the conservation workers and escaped back into the Daxing-Anling Nature Reserve. The local government finally took it seriously and dispatched a professional team to seal the mountains and investigate. A week later, I was finally discharged. I heard that during the investigation, they captured many mountain owls, most of which were locked in zoos. For that reason, I specifically went to the zoo. Sure enough, there was a group of them locked in cages. There was no ferocity in their eyes, only calmness and lying flat. Yes, with food and shelter guaranteed and no need to compete for mates, they successfully lost their ambition. Their size and the terrifying aura they exuded were nothing compared to the one that had eaten 2 people at the school that night.
The end of story.
Kenji has a story that can. Yeah. But anyway. Oh, yeah.
taking shape.
Story. It's
Weird space customization field. The story of Xenofields revolves around the protagonist, who is a newly hired space custom officer stationed in a small booth on an isolated asteroid just outside a planet known as Earth. Every single day, a massive influx of space vehicles from different galaxies fly by your station. The travelers are a bizarre mix of alien tourists, traveling workers and professionals, delivery crew, cosmic wanderers, most of whom happen to look like anime waifus. But at the same time, we get many references to characters in pop culture, namely, just to mention a few, Rick from Rick and Morty, Bender from Futurama, and Lilu from The Sixth Element. Our job is very important, as the life of our home planet.
Let me see. Sixth Element. Let's see.
Planet depends on it. We must weed out illegal migrants, terrorists, and dangerous people from those travelers and prevent them from migrants, terrorists, and dangerous people from those travelers and prevent them from stepping foot on Earth. We have very little corporate oversight in this lonely asteroid and a very large shotgun, which we are given full authority to use if something doesn't match with these travelers, which has the power to eliminate the travelers alongside their vehicle in a spectacular fashion.
My gleaming metal ass!
Our daily directive includes scanning incoming travelers through cross-reference plates to ensure that they match. If we make the mistake and let even one terrorist pass through, the entire planet Earth suffers the consequences and is completely destroyed. The game seems straightforward, and we start with the satirical parody of a dystopian bureaucracy, being a on Papers, Please inspired game with tons of references to pop culture, but there is a dark and twisted secret unveiling the horror embedded between the lines. We are stuck on a tiny isolated asteroid which seems to be somewhat abandoned, but we are instructed nonetheless to act as its last bastion of hope to save an entire planet. We are constantly told that no one ever lasts longer than few days on.
Okay, I get the girl
job.
At least you've managed to last longer than... well, never mind.
Still here, huh? Trainees usually last 1 day at most.
And our commanding officer is an extremely inappropriate female superior who over the days becomes more and more, how to put it, less burdened by the heavy weight of physical belongings and becoming more generous with personal assets. Which makes it seem that this is not an official job and some sort of a story of a deeply disturbed psychotic individual. The travelers point out the newly set up system of a lonely custom officer with a mere shotgun on an isolated asteroid is a very archaic and far from appropriate in a futuristic setting where intergalactic travelers can easily travel through space, and we entirely depend on simple images on old school monitors and technology to assist these people. This seems somewhat out of place and as if none of this is truly happening. At least, that's one of my theories about the story of the game. Something else that adds up to this theory of mine is the daily unsettling findings of the protagonist who finds a ghostly entity within his dorm who teases him every day, as if trying to unveil a deeply troubling secret on how his life is at risk and humanity will become extinct. But also, the job is described to be heavily tasking on the psyche, so this could be a dystopian nightmare of a job. The government cares little about the life of innocents, as the commanding officer makes it clear that using lethal force is fully authorized, and showing blind obedience and compliance is necessary rather than keeping innocent individuals safe. We are openly told not to worry about the innocent victims, dismissing them simply as collateral damage if mistakes are made and we shoot and kill the wrong people. Over time, the stress of the job sets in. The gameplay introduces psychological horror elements. The protagonist begins suffering from eerie visions, which could be hallucinations, hearing strange voices, and experiencing bizarre events that make it difficult to separate what is actually happening from what is just in his head. So all the job leaves on the protagonist's sanity, not knowing if he kills innocent people or real threats, causes reality to warp, with a monstrous ghostly character appearing in the shadows and calling to him. This displays signs of a mind fracturing, which brings the question, is the protagonist actually imagining all of this, being in some sort of a detailed delusion, or is he slowly losing his sanity due to the heavy toll the job leaves on him, starting to have reality distorted to him, seeing and hearing things? So let's start from the beginning, when we are hired by an enigmatic organization and inducted by its general commander, or the commanding officer, who explains we are the last bastion that protects us from space trash, illegal migrants, and terrorists.
Time is short, Private, so listen carefully. I won't repeat this twice. You are the last bastion that protects us from space trash, illegal migrants, and terrorists. The job is hard, but at least it pays. Morley, that's all. The inspector will tell you the rest. CO out.
So, you're the new inspector, huh? Okay, let me get the gist. Look at the screen, make sure the database photo matches the arrival's appearance. Take your time. Better to double check everything.
Soon we have our first visitor, a different inspector who gives us some tips about what is required. We have a shotgun and are fully authorized to use lethal force to get rid of anyone who has any mismatch in their photos or paperwork. Remember, this is a dystopian future, and we cannot afford to feel bad for anyone, even the innocents. All we must do is kill or be killed, even if it means in the expense of innocent victims that we kill. There doesn't seem to be any punishment for killing innocent travelers, and we are given full authority to take anyone's life. I wonder what could possibly go wrong giving a psychological unstable officer a large shotgun capable of fully destroying someone alongside their vehicle.
Those losers didn't let me in Space Vegas!
After we let the inspector through, we get our first visitors. First one being Bender from Futurama. Then we have the next visitor, who rightfully explains that the system is very Stone Age, with one singular individual having a mere shotgun and checking the visitor's paperwork and photos by himself to let someone through. Looking around the booth, we see the signs of how the custom officer is armed, and visitors are not allowed to leave their vehicle and must at all times stay in. At first, we only have to inspect the images of the visitors and make sure that they match. As the day comes to an end, the door to the officer's dorm opens on its own in a creepy manner, and we get to go inside. There are several bureaucratic posters about authority and how we are being watched by the big sister, and some inspirational posters about hanging on and doing a good job. We also find a TV that constantly plays. Even if we try to turn it off, it turns back on automatically, displaying the depravity of consumerism. We learn the organization that we work for is called DBPF, or possibly DERF, Border Protection Force, or Patrol Force.
Join the ranks of the DBPF. You'll be semi-regularly paid, respected by society, cremated for free, provided your body is found, and most importantly, you'll be given a gun.
Feeling lonely? No one to share dinner with? Spending all your time working with nobody to come home to? Huh, well, no more. Families for Hire will help you. Call now and get yourself a little daughter absolutely for free.
That's been like
0.7 beer. Classic taste. That will remind you of your childhood.
They have like,
fairly proud.
They have like actual paid to be a girlfriend kind of stuff. I just thinking about it because I watched a video about the anime of I forgot its name, but you know the girlfriend thing where the guy pays a girl to be his girlfriend. Anime, it's actually a real life thing. They actually pay to. So I was just saying that as a thing like you're paying someone to be a family.
Practically non-toxic and addictive. No fatalities have been proven.
The pay is semi-regular and is very little, as the commanding officer said in the beginning. But hey, money is still money, especially in a futuristic dystopian world where we possibly have the problem of overpopulation, lack of jobs, and extreme rat race for any poorly paid job. The other advertisements show how unhealthy and bad the products are. But now, it doesn't matter, as they can lie to our face and we would buy it. One specific product is beer, which they advertise on being healthy for our liver. Finally, one specific poster displays a man refusing to eat a baby alien, which will progressively become more worrying in the following days. Then we finish the day with cleaning our shotgun in a conspicuously questionable manner while watching the video messages of the commanding officer.
I see, you've got the hang of the job. Sure, you could have done better, but the share of unnecessary victims is within permissible limits. Tomorrow you'll have to do your best, so make sure to get some rest. CO out.
More concerning, the commanding officer dismisses the innocent lives, if ever taken, saying that they are to no significance, and if the custom officer makes mistakes, killing them. Not to worry about it at all. We sleep the night and wake back up tomorrow, which happens to be still night, as there's no atmosphere on this asteroid. We let in some anime waifus, even the alien waifu from the Aliens movie, when we decide to sneak into the dorm and take a look. See two red glowing eyes and hearing whispers. These are the first signs of the protagonist losing his mind. The shift eventually comes to an end and we head back to the bedroom. As we play the commanding officer's end of the day message, the protagonist yet again picks up his gun to clean, with the commanding officer posing in an Instagram-worthy style, showing her valuables and even making certain innuendos. How the protagonist has managed to last longer than previous custom officers.
You did better than I thought. You might even turn out to have the right stuff. At least you've managed to last longer than... well, never mind. Stay vigilant, Private. Remember, Xenos are sly and treacherous. CO out!
We see them back up on the third day. The inspector comes and explains she's impressed as the trainee custom officers usually last only one day, that being whether getting fired or killed or something else. We have a new task, having to check the visas of the visitors against their document, as back in the HQ they messed up the system. And again, we are reminded not to think twice before shooting if anything doesn't match. Checking the inspector's visa, we finally learn her name, being Gina. Moving on, next reference character we see is the innocent cutout board girl called Tiffany. We can see this in the Men in Black, whom Will Smith shoots in the examining scene. This is the girl who doesn't seem to belong alongside aliens at night, holding a quantum physics book. If we don't shoot her, she happens to be an actual villain who blows up Earth completely.
Good packs are backpacks with basic necessities for people and pets.
Physics book. If we don't shoot her, she happens to be an actual villain who blows up Earth. We also get other characters such as Darth Vader from Star Trek. Okay, I'm just kidding. Clearly, I know Darth Vader is not from Star Trek, and they are clearly two different franchises, and even my joke is too much of a cliche to be funny. Obviously, Darth Vader is not from Star Trek. How could I possibly mistake anyone from my favorite movie trilogy, Lord of the Rings? As the shift ends and we go to the dorm, the posters become distorted and scarier, with the characters having Lovecraftian monster tentacles and changing their expressions. Back to cleaning the gun. We get another message from the commanding officer.
Yeah. I personally perused your latest report, Private, and I'm impressed. It's rare to meet a person who can appreciate discipline and follow regulations to the letter. You know, I expect big things from you. Don't you disappoint me, rookie. CO out!
We sleep the day and wake back up for the next day shift. We get visits from E.T. from the E.T. movie with his famous finger, and eventually finish the shift after killing some people, not matching their document. Visits from...
Don't you disappoint...
Oh yeah, and I'm also going to get a screenshot. This is going to be my new...
Me, rookie. CO out!
We sleep the day and wake back up for the next day shift. We get visits from E.T. from the E.T. movie with his famous finger, and eventually finish the shift after killing some people, not matching their documents.
No, you... E.T. was...
And eventually finish the shift after killing some people, not matching their documents, and head back to bed. The room is getting more and more terrifying, with the posters clearly showing that the protagonist is losing his mind if there is in fact no other culprit involved, making them appear as such. The poster that said that we can do it now says that we cannot do it, and the one that refused to eat an alien is now an alien himself and says maybe to eating a baby alien. We then move on to see the video message of the commanding officer being the highlight of the protagonist's exhausting and troubling day.
Damn it, rookie, you're not some great...
Okay, this might actually a better screenshot.
Quick shot, use your rod properly. You seem a natural soldier, a ruthless CO exterminator. So, tell me how many criminals you put down today.
It seems the commanding officer gets turned on by how brutal the protagonist is and asks about how many people he killed today, which is very concerning. Anyway, we sleep the day and wake back up the next day. The inspector comes back and tells the HQ has messed up even more, and now we have to also check the vehicle license plates. Peeking through the door to the dorm, we see more creepy visions and hear more whispers. We have a visitor referencing the character Sayuri from Doki Doki Literature Club. We then get a Predator baddie from the Predators movies. Then there's Puck from Harry Potter. And eventually, we get to go back to our nightmarish dorm. The posters are hellish now. The poster where the man refused to eat a baby alien is now an alien who says yes to eating a human. The Big Sister poster is now a skeleton, displaying doom and death. But hey, we have the commanding officer's video message to look forward to.
What are you looking at, soldier? Our HQAC is busted and the heat is overwhelming. I even ordered everyone else to leave early so we could discuss all the Xenos you've dispatched face to face. I want to hear all the details. We've got all night.
At this point, it's a little too much and calls for HR and harassment with possible consequences. The commanding officer is in a matching lingerie, and she blames the AC for it. In day 6 shift, we get more waifus trying to pass the border, and we get the best reference character, Lilu from the Sixth Element movie and Rick from Rick and Morty. The voice acting is very well done here as well, so you know the dev put a lot of work and passion into this game.
Lula deeper. Multi-passport.
Move your ass and run those checks, or I'll turn you into a cucumber. I don't have time for this BS.
Peeking through the door, hallucinations are getting worse, and when we finish the shift and go to the dorm, the posters have become replaced by the ghostly character the protagonist hallucinates. It's a girl with short hair who wants to possess and take the protagonist. It tries to get into the protagonist's head and tell him to kill and to give up. So very creepy stuff, almost to the point that the protagonist forgets about watching the end of the shift report video message by the commanding officer. But when he does watch it, he forgets about everything else, and about the terrifying red flags and the hallucinations. Maybe the commanding officer is in on it too.
I can't wait anymore, soldier. The danger you endure day after day, the courage you display to protect me, I mean us, I mean the Earth. It deserves a reward, and tomorrow after hours I'll give it to you in person, soldier. I swear!
At this point, it seems the reward the protagonist is looking for now is not even money anymore, but something even better. The story gets downright diabolical at this point, but the protagonist's productivity increases by 10-fold. Yet,
honestly, a little crazy. I actually just looked into the video because I knew it had sexy anime girls, so I could have it on the front of the template and have it be I might have to censor that, yeah, maybe.
is so excited that he barely gets any sleep and excitedly starts the next day shift. Now, he has a new task of visually inspecting the vehicles to match their photo. We get new references, GLaDOS or GLaDOS from the Portal game. Then we even get Huggy Wuggy from the Puppy Playtime games, who seems to have seen better days. And I'm pretty sure there's more, which I don't personally catch. Eventually, the shift comes to an end, and the protagonist excitedly goes back to his dorm, waiting for his reward. When instead, he gets the hallucination individual appearing in his dorm, saying that he has finally come to see her. That's where the demo comes to an end.
You finally come to see me.
So, who could this character be? Is it possible the protagonist is troubled by past memories, someone he unjustly killed, a victim of his job which torments him every day? Is it the difficulty of the job leaving a toll on him, or is it all a figment of his imagination? Either way, most importantly, we must really find out if the commanding officer was telling the truth or she's just a figment of the protagonist's wild imagination. As always, it's been your host Star. Thanks for being here, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.
Honestly, done. Bada bing, bada boom. We're doing one more video and then we'll okay, scratch that, 2-3 more videos. Got it? His life is so...
It was nearing the end of the school year when my Year 8 geography teacher, let's call him Mr. G, told the class one day that we were going to play a game known as the trading game. This was how it was going to work.
No.
Firstly, the class was going to be split into 6 countries. There were 2 high-income countries, the US and UK, 2 middle-income countries, Brazil and China, and 2 low-income countries, Bangladesh and Malawi. Each country was assigned a table and a number of students.
I
On each
feel like
table
I'm
was a
getting
stack
it.
of paper,
Neo
some stationery
colonialism.
like pens, rulers, and scissors, and a reference sheet. The goal of the game was to earn as much money as you can for your country. To do this, you had to cut and sell as many paper shapes as you could to the World Bank, a table with 2 students,
So essentially 300.
who would pay out the prices based on the reference sheet. The catch was that the tables weren't created equally. The US, for example, had 6 students, a decent supply of scrap paper, and enough stationery for everybody at the table. The UK, in comparison, had 3 students, a paltry supply of paper, but a ludicrous amount of stationery for the number of people they had. And then there was my table, Bangladesh, which had 6 people, a large stack of paper, 1 pair of scissors.
One?
Wait, is that it? Mr. G, I don't think you gave us enough scissors.
Life is
Nope,
not
he
fair.
said. It seems like I gave you the right amount. If you need any more stationery, you're going to have to ask the other countries. With that, the game began, and the classroom immediately filled with paper cutting noises. All of us at the Bangladesh table kind of stared at each other blankly, asking, what do we do now? One of my classmates took the initiative and began ripping pieces of paper into rectangles with his bare hands. Nearly all of us, barring the one guy with scissors, started doing the same. Soon, players from the other countries were rushing to the bank to cash in their shapes, and we quickly followed suit. Here's £1,000 worth of rectangles, I said. I'll give you 400 for it. Excuse me? Most of these rectangles aren't cut properly. See, they don't meet the requirements in the reference sheet.
They're not correct.
But we don't even have a ruler. How could we possibly measure the rectangles? I headed back to our table to bring the bad news. Our shapes weren't good enough. We actually needed scissors, rulers, and pencils. Hi, UK. I see you have a lot of scissors and rulers you're not using. I was wondering if you'd be willing to lend some of them to us. £10,000. What? £10,000 and we'll lend you a pair of scissors. But we just started. We don't have that kind of money. Well, go away then. But, okay, listen up.
Colonialist, just like your forefathers.
Everybody, the teacher announced. Because of the high volume of rectangles being sold to the bank, the price of them is now being reduced to £20 apiece. Circles are now £600 apiece. Suddenly, all the countries changed tack. They were all in the circle game now. Well, except for us. We could barely manufacture a rectangle as it is. One of my classmates managed to produce 2 extra pairs of scissors. Where did you get them? I asked. He quietly gestured back at the UK table. But that's cheating, I said. He looked at me dismissively and carried on cutting. I pretended not to notice. The developing world wasn't the only one with problems, though. As the developed world later learned, it was quickly running out of paper. But before any of them could remedy the issue, another event happened. Listen up, the teacher announced. A new resource has been discovered. The grey pieces of paper represent iron, and when cashed in with the bank, they pay double the price. We quickly checked our paper inventory. Good news, we had quite a bit of iron. But that was when the vultures began to circle in. Hi, I'm from the UK, and we'll give you a pair of scissors if you give us 3 pieces of iron. That's not remotely a fair deal. Okay, all right then. Have fun ripping the iron with your bare hands. Wait. Give us 2 pairs of scissors. Give us 4 pieces of iron. Industrialization came at a steep cost. Our paper supplies were thoroughly plundered. But the price, we told ourselves, was worth it. Because for the first time in the game, we were able to manufacture shapes other than ripped rectangles. We were now able to keep up with the increasingly frenetic price changes the World Bank kept throwing at us, adapting our production based on new demands.
This cookie dough parfait is my new favorite high-protein snack, all thanks to Hungry Root. Being healthy and having a...
There were lots of other events that happened, most of which I admit I don't remember. According to a teaching guide produced by Christian Aid for the game, link in the description, teachers can help create new trading situations. Some ideas they give include secretly giving paper to a country to simulate the discovery of a new ore deposit, encouraging richer countries to give out predatory loans to simulate the discovery. Some ideas they give include secretly giving paper to a country to simulate the discovery of a new ore deposit, encouraging richer countries to give out predatory loans to poorer ones, and taking away a country's scissors to simulate a general strike. One event I do remember happening involved Mr. G ominously approaching our desk. He looked at me and said, "Congratulations, you're now an immigrant. You're moving to the UK." With that, I was cruelly ripped apart from my Bangladeshi compatriots. Another one of my classmates was also taken away, forcibly relocated to the United States. The Brits were glad to take me in. After all, they had a manpower shortage throughout. Well, I guess this is my life now. So what shapes are we cutting? Squares, rectangles, circles? Kites.
Kites.
What do you mean by kites? I was directed to refer to the reference sheets. Wait. What do you mean by sheets? Why is there a second page? As it turned out, the UK and US were given a second reference sheet with different complex shapes. These shapes, such as kite stars and trapeziums, paid substantially more than the ordinary shapes, and it seemed like no one else, apart from the UK and US, were even made aware of their existence. So while the rest of the world was frantically adjusting its supply chains to make whatever the World Bank was demanding next, the US and UK were making their own special shapes, knowing full well that
neo-colonialism
limited supply wouldn't trigger a price change. After some time, Mr. G approached our table. In 5 minutes, he whispered, I'll be telling the entire class that the green paper represents uranium. They'll pay out 5 times the price when cashed in. We immediately checked our stockpile. We did, in fact, have some uranium. But we also knew 2 other things. Firstly, the Americans likely would have been told the same information. Secondly, the other countries likely would have uranium on their hands. Conclusion? Get as much uranium as possible before the Americans can. And time was ticking. 5 minutes wasn't a long time. What followed was a mad dash to other countries, disguising our purchase requests as just random stacks of paper, which just so happened to contain their entire green paper supply. We made it out like bandits, shipping off boatloads of uranium back to the British Isles. It wouldn't take long for the others to learn of our deception. As the end drew closer, the atmosphere became more hectic. Around the last 10 minutes of the game, Mr. G unveiled a new piece of equipment. Attention, everyone! A new technology has been invented. The guillotine. No, Lily, not that guillotine, this one. For the low, low price of £3,000, you can buy the dibs. Words cannot express the joyous feeling of being able to manufacture large quantities of rectangular pieces of paper at an industrial rate. Measure, 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 cut, cut, cut. Run, 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 ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. When the dust settled and the game ended, we all counted our money and began tallying our results. It was then that our teacher threw one final curveball. There was a penalty for pollution. For every piece of paper we had on our table, we had to pay a penalty of £100. Okay, well, I guess Britain and America had to be punished somehow for our excessive consumption. How the penalty is calculated?
Yeah.
£100. So, if the paper were entirely unused, £100. If a piece of paper were cut, it would also cost. If a paper was cut into various shapes, which were rejected by the World Bank, each rejected shape would cost £100.
Honestly, genius economic theory crafting, making it into a game to show how civilizations lose money, economic power, and stay subservient because some other countries get the innate advantage. And that's created out of blood. Innate advantage is self-created, self-manufactured. And self-manufactured problem too. Neocolonialism. Truly colonial. Ingenious colonialism. I think I'm going to end this